Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories, where today, my daughter refuses to get a job because it will hurt her social life at school. So my daughter, Sophia, she's 16 and she goes to a private school that a lot of the richer families send their kids to. My wife works there, so we get a huge discount on the price. I would prefer to send the kids to public school, but our school district really sucks, so private school it is. I truly don't like how the kids act at that school. They're really snobby, to be honest. My breaking point for this was when my son sent me a video of my daughter being extremely rude to a fast food worker. My wife and I discussed it, and we agreed that she needed to get a job so she could understand that these people deserve respect and how awful it feels for a customer to be a jerk. So she's been working at Target and dealing with all of the customers. She hates it, and word got around school that she has a job now. This resulted in people not inviting her out like they used to, since they think having a job is lame. My wife wants to let her quit her job, and we got in an argument about it. I think it's better she learns that they were never her friends in the first place, and she should keep her job. My wife thinks I'm an unfair jerk, and Sophia hates me at the moment. Am I the jerk for this? Not the jerk, but as a former food service worker in high school, I believe that everyone should work at least one full year, so you hit all the holidays at least once, as a food service or frontline store worker, so that they're likely to think twice before mistreating staff after that. Maybe do something similar. She has to work for one full year, including full-time over the summer. OP. I agree with that. I remember getting yelled at the movie theater when I was a teenager. I've never been mean to employees since. I know those jobs suck, and I don't want it to be hard on her. Walking into service workers' shoes is a great way to learn empathy and how your actions affect others that are working. Not the jerk. While it sucks that your daughter isn't going to as many parties, I think you're correct and that they were never her friends if they think it's lame for a 16-year-old to get a job. Stick to your guns. Your daughter needs to learn that while working isn't always fun, it's important. Unlike her so-called friends, she doesn't have rich parents to bankroll her life. Earning and saving now will teach very important lessons that go beyond showing empathy to working people. You're the jerk. She got the job and hated it. The lesson that the people she was mistreating are people too might be able to ring home. If it has negative consequences for her friend group, that might not be what you want. Am I the jerk for telling my uncle to stop gifting my daughter extravagant trips? So a little backstory. When my sisters and I were kids, every year for our birthdays and Christmas, my uncle would give us cards. Inside those cards would be a printed out picture of some place, like a local theme park, the zoo, aquarium, museums, any place a kid would love to go. After we opened them, he would tell us that we're going to that place. He would say things like, "It's gonna be the best trip of your life." That would obviously make us very excited. Here's the thing, we never went on any of those trips. We never went to any of those places. As a young kid, it would be disappointing, but after a while I started expecting it and just went along with it. I don't hold any animosity towards him at all, obviously. As an adult now, I understand he did that because he didn't have the means to buy us gifts. Here's where I'm starting to have a little bit of an issue with it. My daughter's 5th birthday was last week. My uncle gave her a card. She opened it to find a printed out picture of a theme park about 2 hours away from our house, and he promised her a fun weekend away. He promised her things like a giant hotel room with a swimming pool, all the snacks she could ever want, and tickets to every show she wants to see at the park. She was over the moon. For the past week, my daughter has talked nonstop about this trip. She keeps telling me how excited she is and how excited her whole class is at school for her. It breaks my heart to look at that smile on her face knowing it's not going to happen. I remember how disappointing it was for me, and I don't want her to go through that. So I texted my uncle. Here's the message that I said. "Hi, your message and my daughter's card was so beautiful. Do you think next time you could leave out the promise of an extravagant trip? The thought and gesture is amazing. However, I never know what to say when she asks me when the trip will be. She absolutely loves spending time with you, so I know the promise of even a nice lunch together would make her so happy." He never responded, but my aunt told me he was upset. She said something like he was offended that I implied the only thing he could afford was a nice lunch. I didn't mean it like that at all. I just wanted him to understand that she loves him and wants to spend time with him, and he doesn't need to promise impossible things to make that happen. But I can see why he interpreted it the way he did, and that's where I'm wondering if I'm the jerk. This has been an unspoken thing in my family for so many years, so I'm now wondering if I should have just kept it that way. I just can't stand the thought of her getting disappointed so many times. My sisters and my mom agree with me. My mom even said she wished that she stopped it when we were kids. So, am I the jerk for telling my uncle to stop gifting my daughter extravagant trips? Update. A lot of people asked me why I was being so nice to my uncle, and honestly, I think I underestimated how weird it was because it's been so normalized in my family. I didn't want to start drama, so I went about it as non-confrontational as possible. I agree now that I should have been more direct. Another concern a lot of you have is that I allowed this to happen previously. That's not true. This is the first time he promised her one of these trips. That's why I decided to say something, so this doesn't become a recurring thing. Update. I tried to call my uncle twice, but he didn't answer. I got through to my aunt and explained everything to her. How many times he promised my siblings and I the same thing and we were disappointed. I told her how my daughter was so excited and that if they were actually planning to take her on this trip, I would apologize. She didn't take that well. She told me I was creating unnecessary drama and that my daughter and I are acting entitled to expect them to drop everything to go on this trip. I was shocked and angry. I said, "How dare you say that? She didn't imagine this trip in her mind and then expect you to take her. You promised her this trip. Her disappointment is not entitlement." I said it's not my job to make sure a grown man feels secure in himself, and it's a shame my family spent so long coddling him. I was so mad, I just hung up. I don't feel any ounce of guilt for setting my boundary anymore. For everyone asking if I can take my daughter on the trip, unfortunately that theme park closes for the season this month. But I surprised her with something even better. After the phone call with my aunt, my partner and I decided to book a trip to Disneyland. It sounds crazy and impulsive, but we've been wanting to plan this for a while now and decided it's the perfect time. My kid is entitled to an extravagant trip. Last night, we sat her down and explained that her uncle won't be able to take her on the trip. I tried to be as honest as possible without confusing her. She was unsurprisingly upset and had a lot of questions. After we answered them all, I told her not to worry because her mom and I are taking her somewhere else instead. When she found out it was Disney, she was over the moon. She spent all day deciding which Minnie Mouse stuffy she wants to take with her. I told her to tell her class that her trip got upgraded. All things considered, it's a happy ending. I know I won't always be able to protect her from disappointment, but I sure as heck will do my best. She's getting that giant hotel room she was promised. I wouldn't be accepting any more cards from them at all. OP, don't worry, I'm not. I'm going to be checking cards of any events he comes to. It's a shame I even have to do that, but if it means protecting her from his lies, I'll do it. This family dynamic is just wild. Why has everyone just accepted it? OP, I wish I had a good answer to your question. I have a theory though. My uncle is the boy in the family, and my grandma has always treated him differently than she treats her daughters. You know, the typical self-proclaimed boy mom stuff. She thinks he's perfect, so I'm starting to believe everyone let him get away with this because they didn't want to upset my grandma. I'm sure she's upset with me for hurting her son's feelings. My wife refuses to put our son, who's 6, in public school. How do I move forward? My son is 6 years old, but he's very smart and we're currently homeschooling him. But currently, they haven't had a session in weeks. When they do, it's just a few hours, if that. 3 times a week, if that. I'm very frustrated because even though I understand the advantage of homeschooling, more focus on subjects that matter without the fluff, not subjecting him to the dangers of public school, I'd still rather have him endure that than him on his phone constantly throughout the day and not obtaining any social skills of any kind. The wife and I have argued about this so many times, and I told her it's the last year of this homeschooling. She has clinical OCD and babies him a lot. It's her only child, so I understand to an extent. I have 3 others from a previous marriage and 2 live with us, so I don't know if that has something to do with it or not. I'm not sure if counseling, compromise, or ultimatums are in order here, as she absolutely refuses to put him in school, and I've threatened divorce because I find it very harmful for him. Any advice would help. Edit. This is a difficult decision to say the least. To those who had lingering questions, I work from home, so that's how I know. Yes, she gets therapy and medication for her OCD. Yes, I know I'm at fault for not just enrolling him in school behind her back, but this is something I've argued for the last 2 years about. I take his education seriously, but you don't just do what you feel is right without consulting your partner. So I decided to write down my feelings and will give her a choice. I love her and my son. I feel we can make a decision that's beneficial to all, but if she wants to be stubborn, I'm willing to walk away, which is a very hard decision with lots of ramifications. She's gonna wreck him if she's allowed to homeschool him the whole time. If your wife's OCD is driving this issue, it is in your kid's best interest to attend school. Not subjecting him to the dangers of public school, that sounds like an OCD worry. Has her fear impacted the whole family? She desperately needs professional therapy if she isn't already. Her catastrophic thinking is very harmful to your son's own psyche. Her therapist must be aware of how her illness is affecting him. Your wife is neglecting his education. Her mental health issues are deeply affecting her insight and her parenting. I don't know if my story will help your case at all, but my mom tried to do the same with me. I was homeschooled, aka I was at home instead of going to public school. Luckily, I got some formal education for 3 years, so I at least know how to read. My homeschooling was really just getting to sit around and read or play on my phone. She never pushed me to do anything. No math, no science, no history, nothing I didn't want to do. Eventually, my grandparents visited, saw that I was basically a 13-year-old third grader, and they called the authorities. I was taken to live with my grandparents, then eventually my dad. Got to go to high school, but I was bullied horribly for my lack of social skills. I'm in college now, but it took 3 extra years of remedial education to get to basic freshman level. I'm in my mid-20s and I still can't socialize, still can't do division. I encounter huge gaps in my knowledge daily. I literally can only read and write so well because all I did for school was read. Oh, and I also do not speak to my mom, and I called the authorities the second I caught wind of her doing the same thing to my siblings. Update. So after many heated arguments, we agreed that she could finish out this year. If she stays consistent and there is an improvement, I agreed that he will stay homeschooled. But if I don't, then he will go to public school. I'm still afraid she may renege on the deal, and she's afraid I may not give her a fair shot and just disagree no matter what when the time comes. But that's where the trust in your partner is really tested. Now, this took a lot of conviction and tears and emotions. This was not easy to get to because of how strongly we felt about her homeschooling in the public school system. So I suppose any argument about the welfare of our kids is better than petty ones. In the end, I was close to really walking away, but I listened to her feelings and she understood mine. I hope this helps someone in a similar situation. Thanks for all the feedback. Edit. So let me explain. I have a calendar of his lessons and times she will be teaching him. Those will be signed off and checked. I will also have him tested at the end. She has until the end of December this year. If she fails, he'll be enrolled come January of 2024. Also, the nasty comments that we are failing him, that I'm a terrible parent and spineless, not needed. I was and am willing to divorce unless I have my son succeed. I'm sure you all meant it as motivation, I'm guessing. I'm here to fight for my son, but also in a marriage, and you don't just throw away your marriage unless there's no other choice. So if she reneges on the deal, she knows the consequences. I just don't get homeschooling. It seems more of like an excuse to keep kids from external influences than it does about actually educating them. Not to mention, I have a very hard time believing that most parents are even remotely qualified to properly educate their kids. Well, what do you think? Should they keep homeschooling him or not? Please let us know. As someone who was homeschooled for a few years myself, I wish I had never been. I really missed out on some important years of social development. Oh, is that why you're so awkward to be around, Karen? Silence, you fool! Am I the jerk for laughing at the reason my son was given detention and not agreeing to it? I, 36 female, have a son who's 11, in 6th grade, and we'll call him Preston, and the teacher we'll call Susan. She's about 50-something. Some important background is that Preston is pretty skittish and jumpy. He easily gets startled by noises or voices that he doesn't expect, especially if they're loud. I only have seen Susan in person like twice, but she has a distinctly loud, almost thunderous voice. Never heard her yell though, but Preston says it always makes him jump a little, and apparently she's known for being ridiculously loud in general from the other kids and parents. Anyway, I work from home, and I got a voicemail on my phone from Preston using a school phone saying he got detention. Because Susan yelled at some kids that were messing around during work time, he was startled and she noticed, so she made him leave the room, work in the hallway, and call me to tell me that he had disturbed detention next week. I did not believe that was the reason he got detention at all, because that sounds really dumb, and assumed he was just minimizing his role. He does tend to do that when explaining his side when in trouble, so I thought I'd get Susan's side at recess while I went to lunch. I call her and I was completely caught off guard when what she said lined up with everything Preston said. I wasn't sure what to say at first, but I ended up just laughing on the phone before any words could come out. Susan was irritated and asked what was so funny, and I just responded that I was so sure that Preston was lying to me because that was such a ridiculous reason to give anyone detention, and that he's not serving detention just for being startled. She tells me that this is not a suggestion and that I'm being obtuse. I stood firm and asked her if she'd think it was appropriate if her boss yelled loudly at some fellow teachers You were startled, and then he proceeded to dock her pay or some other form of punishment, following up with, I bet she didn't even do jack squat to the kid she was initially yelling at after noticing Preston. She got quiet for a moment, and I thought maybe I convinced her, but then she doubled down and said that failing to serve detention would result in suspension or more, and I told her I'd gladly fight her and the school on this if it came to that before hanging up. I do not intend to punish Preston just for getting startled. We all do it, and it's nothing worth making any issue out of. If I'm being honest, the only reason I posted this is because I vented to my friend about this later, and she actually did not side with me, saying that I was kind of a jerk to laugh at Susan and that teachers don't get paid enough to deal with the things I said. So I want to hear what unbiased people think. I startle easily. If I got in trouble every time I had a reflex response from a loud noise in the classroom, I would have been expelled several times over. That's easily the stupidest thing I've ever heard someone put in detention for. Not the jerk. Talk to the principal about this ASAP and object. I'd be curious if Susan has actually explained what happened yet to those above her. If they have any common sense, they'd see how ridiculous it is. Also, maybe to avoid any retaliation, see if he could change rooms and get a different teacher. This might be US defaultism talking, but I'd say it's pretty early in the school year to do a switch for the good of your son, so this teacher does not pull any more weird power trips like this one. Not the jerk. I work in education too. I understand not getting paid enough, and I've seen some entitled parents, but you don't sound entitled. This is a pretty ridiculous reason to punish someone. Some people get startled easily. I'm one of those people. That's not a reason to punish someone. Definitely talk with the principals about this. Am I the jerk for telling my daughter that "this needs to soak" translates to "I'm too lazy to wash this"? Just like the title says, last night, my 52 female daughter, who's 30, and baby granddaughter were over here, and I made oven-baked macaroni and cheese. We took up our plates, and I put the leftovers in a container and immediately filled the pan with hot soapy water, and we sat down to eat. After dinner, we had coffee, and then my daughter went to wash the dishes before heading home. When she got to the pan, she said, "Oh, this still needs to soak." I told her that translates to, "I'm too lazy to wash that," and I reminded her that it had already been soaking for over an hour and that it wasn't going to get any easier to clean. She said I was just being a jerk, and I should just be happy that she had done the dishes in the first place. So, am I the jerk? Edit. My daughter comes home 3 to 4 times a week for dinner. I know it helps save her money on groceries, so I don't have any problem with that, and she always insisted that she does the dishes because I cook the dinner. Second edit. My granddaughter is almost 2, and my daughter is a first-time mom who's co-parenting. For those who are saying that she's a guest, I assure you that she's not. She has a key to the front door, comes and goes as she pleases, still has a room here. Now it has a toddler bed, as they often spend the night. The pan in question is a glass Pyrex. The cheese wasn't burnt on it, and as I said, it was full of hot soapy water already and had been for a while. Final edit. When I got up this morning and saw all the "you're the jerk" votes, I went to visit my daughter. I apologized to her for calling her lazy, and I showed her this post. She read everything over and said to me, "But Mom, you didn't call me lazy. You said leaving the pan to soak was lazy, and you were right. I just didn't want to wash it, and I got snippy when you called me out for it." She then apologized to me as well and asked if she could come over for dinner tonight. I have a pork shoulder in my crock pot right now. Like most mothers and daughters, we don't always see eye to eye, but we do try to resolve our differences. Soaking overnight absolutely helps. Stuff that would have to be viciously scrubbed off slides off easily. It's just one pan, one time. You're the jerk. She did almost all of the dishes in a house she doesn't live in, and you call her lazy. You're the jerk. I live with people who do this. The key is that when they say "this needs to soak," they are never ever around when it's done soaking and it's time to wash. Coincidentally, that's always my job. I agree that "this needs to soak" for some folks actually means you wash it because it's really messy and I don't want to. That said, and I really truly feel your pain, as I look at these dishes my spouse set to soak last night still in the sink waiting for me to clean, you will never make points with someone by assassinating their character. Hey, it's as soaked as it needs to be. Would you mind washing? Fine. You're lazy? Well, it didn't really end up changing the dish situation. And your daughter called you a rude name, so just judging by results, not an optimal strategy. Unfortunately, I've got to go with "you're the jerk" for the name calling, but I'm mighty tempted to join you in the club. You're the jerk. No, it needs to soak. And who makes company wash the dishes? That would be a one visit and done for me. Well, what do you think? Is it okay to leave those dishes soaking overnight for someone else to wash or not? Please let us know. I had an ex who always did that. Long story short, we're totally not together anymore. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay for my friend's furniture after she lied about the amount she needs? I, female 34, have been close friends with Eva, 36, since college days. I and Eva have also been close friends with Julia, who's 33. However, me and Julia had a big falling out about 5 years ago. We come from small Eastern European conservative country. I've moved away soon after college, but both girls are still home and still close friends. During lockdown, Eva started dating a guy, David. As their relationship progressed, and the more she told me about the guy, the less I liked him. When she told me they got engaged, I tried to talk to her about my concerns, but she didn't want to listen. Earlier this year, Eva told me they would get married this fall and asked me to be her maid of honor. I was torn between supporting my friend and refusing on grounds I just don't think he's right for her. In the end, I said yes to being her maid of honor. In our culture, it's custom that best man and maid of honor gift the newlyweds the biggest and most expensive gift, and the rest of the guests use it as a guide what not to exceed. I own my company and earn substantial income, so I asked her what she needs and wants. She said it would mean a lot if I could help her furnish their new apartment, that their mortgage doesn't leave any room for furniture. I said fine, send me the list and links of what you want, and offered to either buy it for her or give her a check that would cover everything on the list. She sent me the list. It was a lot, but still nothing I couldn't easily afford. About 2 months ago, she called me to say she would have 2 ceremonies, civil ceremony this fall and church wedding next year, but that she wants Julia to be her maid of honor for church ceremony and me for civil. I wasn't okay with this and said she would need to choose. Since I committed to buying her furniture, I even offered to keep that promise if she chooses Julia. She did. It stung a bit, but I reminded myself I was never really for that marriage. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago when Eve calls asking for checks for furniture. I asked her to remind me what the amount was. I knew the rough figure, but not down to a final euro. She rattled an amount that was almost 3 times what I had in my head. After going back through emails, I was right, and she almost tripled the original number. After confronting her the first time, she tried to blame it on inflation, but then said that it shouldn't matter because I can afford it and it's my wedding gift to her. I proceed to rescind my offer to pay for furniture and said I would prefer to stick to our custom and make sure my gift doesn't overshadow that of maid of honor. She called me a jerk for going back on my promise. So, am I the jerk for refusing to honor the original offer? Not the jerk. It's one thing to change your mind and keep the people close to you when on the loop. However, in this case, you were lied to and your financial status was used as a "but you can afford it so it doesn't matter" crutch. If your friend wanted more money towards the furniture or other things and she asked you in advance, I'm assuming you would have fulfilled her wishes. People like this really hurt my heart because it doesn't matter how long you have known the other person. That first lie is never the last lie. Am I the jerk for wanting to divorce because of what my wife said in therapy? My wife, 37 female, and I, 40 male, got married 12 years ago, and she's been my rock, and our marriage was really good. Or used to be really good before we went to therapy. My friend was suffering from a lot of mental health issues, and we were worried about him. He did about 2 years in therapy, and he's doing a lot better. My wife suffered from anxiety and depression, and she's a vet, which is a very high-stress job. I recommended she try therapy too, and she agreed. She went to therapy for 6 months and said she likes it and wants me to go with her. I personally find it a little hippy-dippy, but it couldn't hurt, so I agreed. First 2 therapy appointments went well. The therapist, not her personal one, nailed down one thing about my wife. She's extremely distrusting of other humans. She didn't have a good family growing up, and her father sold her dog, which she said was her only friend, and it really took a toll on her. As an adult, she's relatively well-adjusted, and she's a great mom to our 2 kids. He asked us as homework to do the Big 5 personality test. It was a long questionnaire, and we shared it with him. My trust of others was a 34, and hers was an 8, which is very low. He asked her to tell him what makes her distrust people. She said people are very two-faced and only do what benefits them, and she felt like she has a disadvantage in life because of her morals. She's very kind to people, which is weird because she doesn't trust them at all. She helps people a lot, and one of her friends even said she's the one they go to for advice because they know she wants what's best for them and that she can keep a secret. She does a lot of unpaid work to help stray animals and is often depressed if an animal passes away. But she says she does it because she feels extreme guilt if she doesn't help others, but she feels people don't feel guilt hurting her, which is why she prefers animals to humans. Then the topic of our marriage and trust came up, and she was super tight-lipped about it at first, but then admitted she didn't really trust me all that much. She said that she actually married me because I was honest and being kind of in it for myself. She said she can't stand people who appear kind and compassionate and then lie and backstab people and prefers an honest person. I was shocked because I feel like I'm an honest but also kind and generous person. But in her eyes, I'm not, but she says it's fine because I'm honest about it. She also admitted she took out the "in sickness and in health" part of our nuptials because she felt like I would divorce her if she got cancer, but she was okay with that because it would destroy her to expect it and then be disappointed, but she felt like she knew where she stood with me. I've been thinking about her words and it bothers me so much. I asked her out of therapy why she even married me, and she said she knew I was hardworking and honest, and most people are not kind, but that they fake kindness to get ahead. She liked that I didn't, and she felt like she really understood me, and so she felt safe with me. I told her if she didn't think I was a good person, but just an honest one, we should just get divorced, and she got mad and told me that our marriage was good, we're working together well and raising our kids, and there wasn't anything serious. To me, I just realized my wife didn't think I was a good person, and I feel like our marriage has been a lie. Edit. Some of you are asking if my wife loves me and I love her. I definitely love her. But in therapy, she said she thinks she loves me, but also admitted she doesn't know if she can love humans, as humans are generally selfish and destructive and will take advantage of people weaker than themselves. I'm really worried if she loves our kids. She acts like she does, but it's hard to tell because she goes above and beyond for people she worries are going to lie to her. My guy, this is way beyond Reddit's pay grade. I don't think it's that your wife doesn't think you're a good person. I think it's that your wife doesn't think there are any good people, but thinks that you're better than most. Given your wife's view of humanity, that seems to be a compliment. Karen demands I wear a different Halloween costume. I, 21 female, have been friends with Josh, 21 male, since we were kids. Our moms were friends growing up, and we were pretty much raised together. We've continued to stay best friends through all these years, and we both attend the same college. A year ago, Josh started seeing a girl, Lydia, 21 female, and it eventually developed into a relationship. They've been officially dating for 6 months now. I never met her when they were just talking because he didn't know where the relationship was going. When they did start dating, he introduced us ASAP because I'm his best friend. At first, I thought it was just shyness because I'm a close friend of his, so you obviously want to get along with your partner's friend. But it became very clear very quickly that she just had a problem with our friendship. This past Saturday, there was a Halloween party at our friend's place. Lydia was bringing a friend and told Josh that she and her friend would be doing a matching costume. So Josh asked me if we wanted to do a costume together. We decided to go as Steve and Robin from Stranger Things. I guess on Friday he told her this was happening, and suddenly her tune changed, and she wanted to do a couple's costume. He saw what she was doing, and he told her no. So she then texted me asking if I would change my costume. I said no because I already spent my money and didn't know if I could even return it. Plus, I'd have to scramble for another costume. All of a sudden, I started getting spammed from random numbers, probably her friends, calling me all sorts of names. The whole time Saturday, she was just sulking, and one of her friends seemed to be consoling her the whole night. It just felt awkward. Josh is telling me we didn't do anything wrong, but I feel like he's biased because he's my friend. I want a third party's opinion. Am I the jerk? Edit. I don't plan on telling him about the texts. None of them were malicious or scary, just mean-spirited. I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt and hope that this was a random act that was totally out of her typical character. Edit. After reading some of your comments, I plan on telling Josh after class today when we meet up for lunch. Edit. I told Josh. Of course, as many of you predicted, he is unsurprisingly really upset with her. Not the jerk. It would have been one thing if she wanted to do a matching costume with Josh. In that case, sorry, but she as the girlfriend takes rank over you as the friend. But that wasn't the case here. Her sulking and having people spam your phone was ridiculous. No matter what anyone says, there's always a certain degree of awkwardness when you start dating someone who has a close friend of the opposite gender. But if she wants to talk about boundaries, she needs to do it in a far more mature way. OP. No, don't apologize for that. I don't expect to ever take priority over his partners. If she wanted to do a costume and he turned her down, but then asked me to do a costume with him, I'd call him out on it. I hope you let him know that you're getting those texts, because she had to, at the very least, give your number to her friends, which means at best she's okay with it, and at worst she instigated it, neither of which is okay. I would want to know if my partner was having their friends text my friend insults. The one thing I do want to know is if Steve and Robin are a couple. I don't watch Stranger Things. If they are, I think that wasn't the best choice. If you're going to do a pair costume with someone in this situation, I would personally go with characters that are not coupley. That's not to say you're in the wrong in this situation, just that this wasn't, in my opinion, the best choice for the situation. Steve and Robin are besties and coworkers, but there is zero romantic feelings there. Love that you guys picked Steve and Robin, a beautifully platonic relationship. Your bestie literally waited for his girlfriend to make her decision about her costume, then he followed her lead. She did a duet set with her bestie, he did one with his. Just because she wants to sulk doesn't make it anyone's fault. She had opportunities, and she just didn't take them. Those are self-consequences. Your friend sounds like a good dude. Not the jerk, but she is for how she acted, and so is he for disregarding his girlfriend's feelings. I hope she can find a guy who respects her feelings and doesn't put his best friend's feelings over hers. If I was her, I'd dump him for putting your feelings over hers. Relationships with dudes who have a female best friend never work out long term. You're always going to be a thorn in the side of any relationship he has until he grows up and cuts you off. No self-respecting woman would stay with a guy who has a female best friend. The only women who allow that are ones who have no self-confidence and figure they can't find a decent man who will put her first. My husband and I have a no friends of the opposite gender rule, and it's worked amazing for us for the last 11 years we've been married. He doesn't have any women texting him trying to hit on him, and I don't have any guys trying to get with me. Something sad about the younger generation is how open you all are to this kind of thing. It's like you rebel against traditionalism so much that what results is a cacophony of insanity where people with common sense are unable to find a decent partner. So glad I'm 35 years old right now and not 15. I don't know how I'd survive in this current climate. Edit. To everyone saying I'm not secure in my relationship, I'm very secure in it, in part because of our rules that we've mutually agreed to. To all you women who think it's perfectly acceptable to let your husbands have all the female friends he wants to and to go out to lunch with them, don't be surprised when you find out he's cheating on you, which he definitely will if he's not already. I guess you've never heard of a thing called temptation? You don't dangle a bottle in front of an alcoholic, you don't offer cigarettes to someone who's trying to quit smoking, and you don't let attractive women build close relationships with your husband. No matter how great of a guy you think he is, he will eventually cheat on you with one of them. It's not even his fault, to be honest. It's how men are biologically programmed. If your husband or boyfriend had the opportunity to hook up with a beautiful woman and you never find out about it, 99% of them would because it's just in their nature. Of course, they'd never admit it because you'd flip out on them. But trust me, no man would turn that opportunity down if they knew they'd get away with it. This is common sense that people used to have, but I guess this is a little too much for your little Reddit brains to comprehend. Is what she's saying true, Reddit boy? Would you hook up with a beautiful woman behind my back if you knew you could get away with it? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her best friend's girlfriend? Please let us know. If you did matching costumes with another woman, you'd need a new head. Am I the jerk for changing my adoptive son's name? Names are changed for anonymity, of course. My husband and I took in his cousin Sue's newborn due to her and her partner John's addiction issues. It's not a decision I regret. This beautiful boy is the light of my life, but it was a major life change for us. Especially me, as I was the one who gave up my job and my social life to be basically locked up, isolated during lockdown with a baby. It was supposed to be temporary while they went to rehab. They never went to rehab, nor complied with any of the safety plans set up by the authorities. From 2 months on, they've not seen the baby nor supported him in any way. John's family have not been involved either, as they also refused to abide by the safety plan or any of the authorities' recommendations. Now, 2 years later, my husband and I have full legal custody, and the authorities have closed the file. We've put forth a petition to change the baby's name. At birth, John and Sue named the boy Stephen to honor John's brother who passed of an overdose while partying with John and Sue, who was pregnant. My husband and I have never even referred to the baby by that name. We always called him Davy, his middle name, after Sue and my husband's grandfather. So instead of being Stephen David Jones, we're changing it to David Owen Smith. Owen is after my father, who absolutely adores him and accepted him as grandson from day one. So here's where I might have ventured into jerk mode. My husband thinks I went too far, but I feel they pushed me to the end. John's family found out and blew up my social media and messaging. Not husband's, just mine, telling me that I have no right to change the name or honor my father because I'm nothing more than a babysitter and I'm not the real mother. I was called a baby thief, among more vile accusations. So I snapped and responded back that my son's name will honor good men that he could proudly emulate, not like their junky relative who was a crap stain on the world, defrauding the government for benefits and stealing from anyone he could, and contributed nothing to life or society, and his only accomplishment is that he OD'd before he went to prison. Harsh, yes, but I still don't feel like I'm the jerk. Edit for clarity. I did not change the name on my own. My husband was very involved in the decision, as were our 2 daughters who helped name their baby brother. The name reflects our cohesion as a family. We are all Smiths. And my girls came up with the idea of using Pippi's name because it shows he wasn't just adopted by my husband and I, but an entire family. Not the jerk. He's your baby legally, physically, emotionally, all ways aside from DNA. There is no babysitting. He's never going back to them. Never. You are mom, period. Block them and ignore them. If you can, move away from the area. They'll eventually give up, but it'll take an annoying amount of time. Not the jerk. His biological parents only care because it takes away the last bit of control they assumed they had. If you're doing everything for him and he's legally in your custody, you have the right to change his name. If they don't like it, they can get better and fight in the court. Holy cow, that was pretty wretched. I think your words were a bit over the top, no matter how true they probably are. But you just ignited the flame. Sometimes saying nothing speaks louder. Next time, and there will be one, show some grace and restraint. It ticks them off even more anyway. Not the jerk. And if none of these family members are in the child's life, they have zero input. And block them on your social media. All of them. Good luck. Gentle, everyone sucks here. They're speaking from a place of pain and shame. I'm glad the baby has you and your husband, but there's no need to speak like that of people suffering from addiction. They're already as low as you can get, so there's no need to punch down like that. You know the truth of the situation, so do they. They just can't admit it to themselves. Keep being a godsend to the little man. Block the ones who are bent on rewriting the narrative and enjoy your family. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.